And welcome to the SuperNRML, Supernormal. I'm your host for this very special edition, Vance Nesbitt. Sean Forker is actually on assignment. He's on location with the Small Town Monsters film crew, along with Shannon LeGros and a host of many other celebrities. And they're actually shooting on the trail of UFOs, which is a series which will be released in 2020. So we'll keep you all posted on that. Maz Adams, he's also on assignment. He's currently creating a line of ink work for this upcoming Halloween, and I happened to see the Alfred Hitchcock. It's amazing. So if you guys go over to Maz Adams, ADAMS on Facebook, you can see his artwork there, or go to Maz Adams Art on Instagram and check out his work, man. It's absolutely amazing. And of course, as always, Baker is on continuous assignment. I believe this week he's poking a deer with a stick to find out exactly where the detonation spot is on a deer that actually makes them explode. And of course, if you have questions, just listen to our last episode regarding Point Pleasant. You'll know exactly what we are talking about. But tonight we have a very special episode that we at the Supernormal would like to dedicate to Derek Bellows. Sean shared that Derek was a friend of his and an employee that took his life at the end of September of 2019, and it was a tragedy. But tonight we will discuss naturopathic and homeopathic and the useful tools to fight the demons that we all struggle with. I'd like to thank Agi Wrobel, who's in studio with us, for stopping by to talk with us about health and wellness for us all. Thanks, Agi, for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's just start off and just tell me what it is that inspired you to do what it is that you do.
So I've struggled a lot with my own health issues, and after 2 decades of allopathic medicine and always being told that there's nothing wrong with me, but I was constantly in pain, led me to believe that there was something better out there. As I started to do my own research and learn about other ways of healing ourselves, I stumbled upon naturopathic medicine. And since then, I have been mostly pain-free and have been able to get to a much better place. So here we are.
So you are actually currently studying this, and I'm going to call it a science because I think it is a science. You've been studying this science. Where do you do this at?
It is definitely a science. I'm in my 3rd year at National University of Health Sciences in Lombard, Illinois.
Wow, 3 years. Congratulations. You have what, 2 more years to go?
About a little over a year left.
Good for you. Well, you make us all proud, and I'll be over there to get my health needs taken care of, which I want everybody to know. Aggie and I have known each other, and I actually did the math. It's been about 8.5 years that we've known each other. And so when you decided to get into this field, I was really excited. And of course, you've offered me at certain times, I'm like, oh, I'm having this issue. And you gave me, hey, try this, this, and this. And you gave me a short list. And I did. I went out and bought the short list. And within an hour, I was feeling so much better. I'm like, wow, this stuff really works. So for those of you that always hold question of, it's just kind of a fad thing, it's really not. I believe indigenous people have been studying this ritual for thousands of years before the chemistry was developed in Big Pharma. And Big Pharma is, and it's my opinion, but I think a lot of us take that opinion that it's a money-based business. The more money they can generate by billions of dollars, well, the more power that they have over control of people's health. This isn't an uprising and a fight against that. This is just an alternative because everything we need to live a very healthful and successful life is right beneath our feet that the earth is actually giving us. And you had brought up a couple of points to me earlier about certain states being licensed in this particular science, but that isn't really a boundary for being able to practice this. But do you know offhand which states are licensed or not licensed, and is a controversial topic is to try to break that barrier?
Definitely. We have 22 states right now that are fully licensed. Naturopaths are considered primary care physicians in these states. Some of them, such as Oregon, California, Kansas, Montana, Minnesota, Vermont, even Puerto Rico, and all of Canada. So these are all places that naturopathic physicians can work under health insurance and get reimbursed for their services. So this allows them to practice without borders, and so that doesn't mean, though, that states that are not licensed don't have any naturopathic physicians. Actually, we have quite a few states that without regulation, there isn't really a clear defined law for them to practice or not. So they can still practice carefully in those states.
But there is options, as far as you know, in most states that if you're interested in getting into this field of research and learning and actually becoming a physician in this, most states offer at least some schooling or some place to give you that information, as far as you know?
That's a really great question. So there are actually only 9 accredited naturopathic colleges in the nation. Illinois has one of them. Connecticut has one, but they are phasing it out. 2 of our colleges are in Canada, and we have another one in Oregon, Washington, and California as well.
You know, it seems like Oregon is always on this cutting edge of those type of health things. And I know a lot of people may consider it just a fad phase, but it's a little bit more of a fad when it actually becomes a bill and it's passed by that local government, or state government rather, to allow this. You know, the legalization of marijuana, of course, you know, state of Illinois is on that list starting January 1st of 2020. And, you know, I do believe that there's a lot of health benefits in the oils taken. What's your opinion of that? Do you believe that this is a fad phase with the amount of CBD oil being taken? Or is this, you know, like, let me rephrase that. Is this a fad stage, or is there actual benefits to taking it?
That's also a really great question. So marijuana in itself, having a whole extract, meaning full spectrum, meaning that they are not just taking out one particular isolate such as CBD, is totally anti-inflammatory and works on so many different levels throughout the body. So I think in a sense we do kind of have a fad where people are focusing on CBD as one isolate of this entire oil that they think is so magical, and it is. But synergy is another big thing in naturopathic medicine, where when you have constituents together, they work better together. So in fact, most CBD products on the market, the good ones anyway, will have 0.3% of THC in it as well, in order for your body to absorb that particular nutrient.
Well, I don't understand why it took so long to get to this point, considering the revolution in which I grew up in back in the 60s and 70s. And, you know, marijuana was a thing, but was it really discovered? I believe it was. I knew that there were oils that were available back then, but what took so long? And I'm wondering, is it because of lobbyists that are pushing against it to say, no, it's got to be done through the Food and Drug Administration and be approved, and they're not approving it because pharmaceuticals want to push, you know, a chemical into trying to take care of the same symptoms in which something like this may be able to help with. Now, I know a couple of people offhand that have taken it and they swear by it, that the psoriasis has cleared up, that they have no anxiety, and they're encouraging me to take it. And I said, well, I would try. I have not tried it yet, only because I have reservations, but and that's just me personally, I do not take over-the-counter medication, and I don't take, any prescription drugs if they're given to me. I just kind of stay away from that. But as far as your opinion on the oil, and I don't want to focus too much on the oil itself, but it is a mainstream topic right now. You say good ones and bad ones. What is a bad one? Is that coming just from poor plants, or is, I don't know.
That's another really great question. So there's a couple ways to look at good and bad supplements. Good supplements, you're able to ask the company about the research behind the product that they have. They also minimize fillers, and they maximize the effective and therapeutic constituents that are in it. Be wary of third-party sellers on Amazon. It might be cheaper, but realistically, you don't really know what you're getting. Mm-hmm. So make sure that you talk to a provider to get the best product for you, because you can also tailor them. So your particular body might need certain constituents versus my body. So we might need 2 different products that might even be from the same company. Mm-hmm. So that definitely does make a difference. You do want to look for a full spectrum. You want to look for something that is not excluding other things. So full spectrum just means that they didn't extract a specific isolate out of the whole thing.
Okay, well, that's more science than I'm aware of, but I understand exactly what you're saying. And it's putting something through a sifter. I get that, and you might want to keep...
more processing, too.
Right, that's true. And, of course, like anything that we consume, stay away from processed food. What's your opinion on processed food?
Well, I think that in our particular day and age, we kind of need some processed foods in a way. I say this because we live in a fast-paced environment, and everything is always on the go. And so it's virtually impossible to eliminate all processed foods unless you're extremely strict. Other processed foods, if you're going to reach for those, pick something with less than 5 ingredients in it. If it has more than that, or if it has something that you can't pronounce in there, it's probably not going to be recognized by your body either. And it can lead to inflammation, which then wreaks whole havoc on the entire system.
Mm-hmm. So I have this personal philosophy, so I'm going to step back a little bit to a comment that I made a few minutes ago about I don't take over-the-counter medication or prescription drugs. To me, my personal philosophy is I don't do it out of nervousness. I do it out of the fact that my physical body is taking in chemicals that is unnatural to it. And yes, it is maybe helping with a symptom, but somehow I think in my DNA that 50 years down the road, there's going to be a side effect to having all this chemical in the system that's trying to correct a problem, but the physical body itself doesn't understand what this chemical is. That's where I side with what it is that you're doing. Something as simple. You brought up to me the other day about broccoli. I'm like, well, I like broccoli, but it has so many benefits to it. Name some things that we can just get on a daily basis that are a huge benefit to physical and mental health for us.
Definitely. So aim for a big pile of leafy greens every day. So try to have a salad for lunch, or a salad with dinner, for example. Leafy greens are jam-packed full of vitamins and minerals, and ultimately you are what you eat. So aim for a rainbow, especially for balancing brain health and mental emotional issues. Aside from having a counselor or journaling, those types of things, you can definitely take care of those things on your own through your diet. So if you go to a naturopathic physician, they're going to focus on things like your genetics, your nutrition, your exercise, vitamin R, which is rest, rejuvenation.
What? Oh, I was going to say, I never heard of vitamin R.
I know. Vitamin R is my
new.
favorite vitamin, actually.
Okay.
So this is one that'll give you rest, rejuvenation, and relaxation. This also includes your sleep cycles, too. Mm-hmm. They'll focus on your past illnesses, any types of physical and emotional traumas, and exposures, which exposures actually is becoming more of a hot topic these days, especially with 5G coming out. Mm-hmm. We already know that with 4G, we have things like decreased sperm count, decreased miscarriages and birth defects, with EMF exposure, electromagnetic field exposure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exposures could also include the hormones that are injected into your meats to make them more flavorful, make them more filled and heavy so that they can sell it for a higher price. Those things are endocrine disruptors. There are so many things that can put an effect on your cellular data within your body, which then further dictates how your brain is also going to work. Mm-hmm. One specific thing that I would recommend for everyone is omega-3s, because in omega-3s you have DHEA and you also have EPA. EPA is more important for mood balancing and stabilizing and behavioral health as well. Mm-hmm. So although I can't particularly prescribe, certain things to every single person because each one of us has different biochemical makeup inside, there are certain things like omega-3s that I could recommend across the board.
So if I were to go to you as a patient, would you be able to... You see me as a patient. Do you draw blood? Do you do an analysis of what's going on with that particular person? Do an examination of, the skin, the tissue, the movements, the joints? Is that type of part of what the practice is?
Definitely. A lot of what naturopathic medicine is looking at the whole body. So it depends on the patient and it depends on the state too. But if you focus on the determinants of health, the last few things that I listed, those things should be the basis of your health. So if those things don't help, then I might resort to blood work and mm-hmm. looking further into maybe there's something else going on that we haven't touched base on. But definitely we are able to draw blood, look at labs. We get a full science background similar to that of allopathic medicine.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that I think all of us, including in the listening audience, I'm speaking to you, we probably have all had that experience where you've had a day where you got a really good night or restful night of sleep. And that's an edit. A restful, nice night of sleep. But you've also ate something that was really healthy for you. You had that salad, you had a very balanced meal, and I'm sure you've all noticed how your stamina has increased, your mood is completely boosted. It may take a little bit of time, but I think we probably have all experienced that. It's making it a personal practice on a daily basis in order to improve your mental health and your physical health and your all-around well-being of how you see the world. And that's kind of what I meant at the very beginning of the intro. This is a tool to help release some of those demons that some of us carry. I'm not speaking of paranormal demons. I'm speaking of the demons that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. Stress is a huge killer. But if you're going along the lines in which Agi is speaking about, those levels of stress can be really diminished quite a bit because it changes your focus. And it doesn't mess you up with a high or a buzz. It just changes your focus and improves that mental stability somewhat. And that's kind of why I brought it back to, if I were to go see a physician, what is it that they would actually do once I walk into the office?
Well, I also wanted to mention, too, that one of the big things in brain health is glyphosate. We're finding a lot of studies these days on glyphosate, and really that's the only one right now that we have the most evidence for.
What is it?
Glyphosate is essentially, it's the active ingredient in Roundup. And this is what you're getting on all of your produce that is not organic. If you can't afford to eat organic all the time, at least aim for the Dirty Dozen, which you can find on ewg.org.
Okay.
The Dirty Dozen are the ones that are the most compacted with glyphosate, and it affects our microbiome. Our microbiome in our gut creates 80 to 90% of the body's serotonin, which is your feel-good hormone. Mm-hmm. So if you affect that, you're already disrupting the processes in your brain. So avoid conventional produce. Go for organic, at least the Dirty Dozen. Mm-hmm. Go for the grass-fed organic meats. It's really worth the difference.
Okay, so with that being said, I know we try in the SuperNRML, we talk about scary things. That's really scary. But we probably have all seen the commercial of if you've got whatever the cancer is, and I know there's a series of cancer that's been linked to Roundup, which, what's the company that puts it out? Monsanto. Oh man, you say the word Monsanto in certain groups of people and arrows start flying because of the anger. I understand that. I completely understand that. Stop messing with the food base. And, they're coming across with this approach of, well, we have to feed the world and we have to produce, twice as fast. Well, don't do it through chemistry. Do it through, natural. Look, there's plenty of land here for all of us to walk on, and we don't have to destroy everything to grow our food. And you were bringing up the whole point of go organic. Well, what's a really great way of going organic, which I have done. You do it yourself. You grow it yourself. And
exactly.
Aggie, I know you have your own proponent of do it yourself. It's okay to grow those green peppers, red peppers, tomatoes, your fresh vegetables. I have a lemon tree growing out here, and come on, seriously.
Yeah.
It not only freshens the air in the house and it makes it smell wonderful, but you get fresh, unadulterated fruit from it. So yes, do it yourself. I don't know national chains that are really, and speaking nationally, that does the organic. Trader Joe's is pretty good with organic food, and I think they're pretty much a national chain.
Fruitful Yield
only
sells organic produce.
Right. But see, I don't know if that's a national-based company, if they're all over in the United States or not. If not, take a look for Fruitful Yield, because it's a great store.
You could also look for a CSA. It's a crop share agreement with a local farmer. A lot of times they're willing to tell you whether or not they use chemicals on their produce or what chemicals they do use, so you can make an educated decision. But a CSA allows you to grab a box of fresh grown food, local to you. Local is best. So look for a farmer near you.
That's true. And the same to be said about honeybees and the honey. Always go local with your honey, because it's got a lot of benefits for allergies, and I'm a big proponent for the natural honey if it's to. And of course, that's a whole different subject we can talk about, is the decline of the honeybees, because I've noticed it within the last 10 years where I'm at. Used to be honeybees everywhere. Now you're lucky to see one, and it's terrifying and it's very upsetting. So we need to kind of focus on that at another point and juncture as to what's actually happening there. But that's a different SuperNRML show. But getting back to what it is that you're doing, where are you at in your studies right now? What are the subjects in which you are currently being injected into your brain for knowledge?
So I start my days off with clinical diagnosis and physical diagnosis. And the difference between the two is one class is reading lab reports and being able to diagnose from lab reports, and the other one is physical diagnosis, which means I get to learn a full head to toe physical exam. Then I get to go to imaging diagnosis. So I can diagnose from images such as MRI, CT, and X-ray. I have a homeopathy class where I learn about the homeopathic medicine and how to treat. I also have a hydrotherapy class, which is my favorite. I love hydrotherapy and what it can do for individuals. It is very gentle and also very relaxing with very little contraindications.
What is it?
Hydrotherapy is the treatment with water. That's essentially what it means. And there are so many different ways to use water to treat. You can do something like a peat moss bath, which is a full body submersion in a hot bath followed by a really cold wrap sheet. You could do something called magic socks. There are other things like a constitutional hydrotherapy, Russian steam, sauna, which most people have heard about. And that's just to name a few.
But what's the ultimate benefit of it? Is it to remove toxins, or what is the ultimate benefit of that?
So hydrotherapy is so gentle that it can move in either direction. You can either use it to tonify systems, or you can use it to stimulate systems. A lot of times it can stimulate the immune system and the metabolic rate with a contrast hydrotherapy, such as a constitutional or a peat moss bath. You can detox also in a sauna or the Russian steam box, and all of them are really good to support the liver, the heart, and the brain.
Okay, so using the word detox, which I brought up and you mentioned it too, and I've heard opposing points of view about detoxing because there's one organ in the body that does it for you, detox. So don't take things supplemental to detox yourself when that's what your liver does. I don't know if I actually agree with that. Is there a contradictive opinion as, yes, you can do this and it will help your liver also in the detox process?
Absolutely. So if you're doing a detox, it could be anywhere from a complete fast where you're not eating or drinking anything to simply supporting your liver with things like milk thistle and dandelion as teas every day. So supporting your liver is definitely important within caring for your whole body, because it does, like you say, filter out a lot of things and helps you get rid of excess hormones, for example. So supporting the liver is definitely at the top of the treatment plan.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So then let me ask you, since we're dedicating this show to Derek, who took his life, and we're not going to focus on suicide so much, but have you noticed that there are those that really have that bipolar, and it takes them down a place where they really don't understand what they're doing, and then the ultimate sacrifice of taking their own life? Is this really an effective tool that can help with it? Maybe not prevent it, but can really help with that?
Absolutely. I highly recommend seeking out a local naturopathic physician to talk to about it if you feel like you're dealing with these inner demons. Most of them should be looking at the determinants of health, which, as I mentioned before, such as nutrition, your vitamin R, and any types of past traumas. But diet is going to be one of the biggest tools that you're going to use because, like I said before, you are what you eat. There is not one process in your body that isn't made up of the chemicals that you are putting in, which could be vitamins, minerals, or toxins. So choose wisely and do your research. Know that there is more than just prescription drugs for this that have much stronger side effects.
No, I totally get that. So here's my personal demon. All these things I know personally are very beneficial. However, I will have that moment, and I'll call it a moment of weakness, where I'm craving an Egg McMuffin. I know it's horrible for me, but I'm craving it to the point of I go get one, and I shove that thing down, and I feel like hell afterwards, but it cured that addiction of wanting that quick fix and that flavor. Do you have any suggestions? How do you get around that grasp of addiction? Are there things that I could do where I'm like, oh, I'm really craving it, I need to do this, and maybe it'll break that addiction a little bit? And this goes for cigarette smoking too, or any kind of addiction. but primarily I'm talking about food, because there are times I'll walk past and look at those donuts and I'm like, son of a bitch. I did it today. I looked at that chocolate glazed Long John and I'm like, nope, you're in my face, and I did it. I feel terrible afterwards because I know my little belly here can go away if I'm disciplined enough. So what would you suggest on maybe how to break that cycle?
So that's also a great question with a loaded answer.
That's okay. That's what we're here for.
A lot of times we crave things because our body is subconsciously telling us that we need some nutrient there. So women, for example, they might be craving a lot of chocolate around their menstrual cycle. And that could just be saying that your body is in need of magnesium. In another term, your Egg McMuffin might be the amount of carbs that your brain is craving because you don't have the amount of serotonin that you really need, or you didn't get enough sleep and you just need some really fast energy, which you'll find in simple carbs. So to get out of that, it's going to take a lot of time and practice. So I think the most important thing to remember is to be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. This is not going to happen overnight, and you don't want it to. The most longest lasting effects will be with time-taken change.
Well, that terrifies me personally, because I'm like, man, if I make these sudden changes in what I'm consuming, my body's going to be like, whoa, 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 and I'm going to go a little wonky. If I do that to my body physically, I'm going to throw cycles off. I'm going to lose my sleep cycle. So, yeah, I guess you're probably right. It would take a period of time, and I know all of us are looking for the quick fix. We all look for the quick fix. We all look online and, get rich quick scheme. You look, nothing like that exists. So I'm assuming that everything does take time, but so be it. So in the long run, what's your goal personally?
This time I'm trying to find where my niche is going to fall. I have found a lot of interest in botanical medicine and fertility support, but at this time I'm still kind of observing at the clinic, checking out other docs and seeing what I like, what I don't like. I do know though that I would really like to travel the world to practice. There's an organization, Natropathics Without Borders, kind of like Doctors Without Borders, where I can just go practice in other countries and
that would be
make
amazing.
A difference.
No, that would be totally amazing, because look, there's a lot of third world countries that could probably benefit from that, and along with all of us in first world countries, we can all benefit from it. But there are those that are really struggling to make it from a day-to-day basis, and that in itself has got to be horribly depressing. And you probably don't even understand that's where the depression is coming from, is because it's such a daily struggle. So kudos to you for having that, at least that spark and desire to do that. I think we'd all like to travel the world, let somebody else pay the bill. That'd be great.
Yeah,
that'd
definitely.
be fantastic. All right, I want to wrap up, but it's important for everybody to know, where can people find out more information on these topics?
Definitely. So you'll find more information on naturopathic medicine at natropathic.org, natropathic.org. You can also connect with your local ND through that website as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Agi, this has been, a privilege for me personally, because like I said, we're taking it a little bit outside the norm of SuperNRML, but I think it's really important for everybody to know that there is help out there in avenues you may never have thought of. Step onto that avenue and take that pathway and follow some of the guidelines in which Agi has talked about. And we want all of our listeners, we want everybody to live a really happy and healthy life. So thanks everybody for stopping by, and we're going to see you in the next one.